from California to Kansas, Ohio to Virginia. The voters said, look, the government should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
Welcome back to America Decides. That was, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris reacting to last night's election results. She also said Americans made it clear with their votes that they, quote, stand for freedom, unquote. Ashley Etienne and Devin O'Malley join us now. Ashley is a CBS News political contributor, former communications director for Vice President Harris, and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Devin is managing director for narrative strategies and an advisor to former Vice President Mike Pence. Devin, I want to start with you because the former vice president's no longer in this race. He identified abortion as a key issue, and yet Democrats say after the results of last night's election, that issue simply does not work in any competitive race virtually anywhere in the country. How do you respond to that?
Well, it seemed to play a prominent role in the elections of both Brian Kemp and Mike DeWine just a year or so ago.
Governors in Georgia and Ohio.
That's right. Yep. I mean, where we saw the issue won. But if you take a step back for a moment, this is an issue, the issue of life, that Donald Trump has retreated from. He's abandoned any pro-life position that he's had. And when you're on the top of the ticket, maybe not in name, but in presence, certainly, that sends a signal to voters. And it sent a signal to voters in Ohio yesterday. I think that probably affected turnout. If you look at the 80 counties that Donald Trump won in 2020, 18 of those counties actually passed, voted to pass issue 1. And so I think that there's a real challenge there. And if you look at Virginia, Democrats outspent Republicans 9-1 on the issue. So I don't necessarily agree with the notion that abortion was on the ballot, like much of the pundits have said today.
Ashley, I know you want to jump in on that, but if I heard Devin correctly, he said Republicans weren't aggressive enough on this issue.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, you just earlier in the show showed a CBS poll that showed that Republican primary voters don't want to talk about abortion. It's at the very bottom of the list of issues. But here's the thing: it's a winning issue for Democrats. You know, regrettably, the Republican Party has decided to weaponize this issue, but it's led to the loss from the 18 midterms to where we are now. The last 3 to 4 cycles that Republicans have run on this really MAGA agenda of abortion, crime, the border. It's all a losing, what we saw last night, it's all a losing agenda. So the question I have is, how will they make these adjustments? Will they make adjustments? Will we see the candidates tonight recalibrating, how they talk about the issues? Do we find more different issues have salience versus those of abortion and crime? So that's really the question, is after last night's loss, again, 4 cycles now, the MAGA agenda has lost. Will there be any recalibration, reconsideration on the part of the Republican Party to redefine
Devin,
themselves?
recalibration, is it necessary? Or does it just need to be a different personality?
In Ohio, we're experiencing an off-year election that typically has a lower turnout for
but it's consistent with what happened in August, too.
Absolutely.
This election was run twice, the same result both times.
But again, I point you to people, so candidates and money still matters in this game. And I think that Glenn Youngkin has done a remarkable job in talking about this issue. When you're outspent 9-1 on just abortion alone, it makes it challenging. But what Glenn Youngkin was articulating is actually a common sense approach to abortion, which is to say 15 weeks is essentially pain capable. It's when babies can begin to feel pain. That is something that 66 to 70% of voters actually agree on, right? So I think Republicans, yes, I think you're right. It's not something that I think when elected, voters are saying go and make this, a top 3 priority. But that doesn't mean we fade away from the issue and we don't talk about it. I think we need to talk about it in real common sense terms and to show what the actual extremist position is.
Yeah, but actually, Governor Youngkin said this was the common sense consensus. And he not only didn't flip the state Senate, he had the House of Delegates flipped against Republicans. What does that tell you?
I mean, people are writing his political obituary right now as we speak,
It's a little too early to do that, I think, but that's...
It could be, but the reality is that he banked a lot on these issues of abortion and crime, and he came out one of the biggest losers last night as well. So, but here's the thing that I think we're missing in all of this is, I used to call Donald Trump the Teflon Don. I now believe that Joe Biden is the Teflon Don. Nothing is sticking to Joe Biden right now. I mean, he's got a phenomenal bipartisan record of big achievements. They put $30 million on, in Kentucky against him. He actually did not succeed, right? I mean, everything you can think of that they've thrown at him is not sticking right now. The voters want more and more of it, his agenda.
Lots of bad polls, but lots of good election results when it comes down to choosing between the agendas. We'll have to leave it there, but I want to let everyone know Devin and Ashley will be back at 10 o'clock because we're going to be back at 10 o'clock. This is a reminder. It's in the prompters. I'm going to read it now. We will have complete coverage of the third Republican presidential debate starting right here at 10 p.m.